A couple months ago, Jesse Zebart at the Bainbridge Island Museum of Art approached me and said, "We're thinking about doing a blues festival during the summer, and would like to have an educational component. And I know that you wrote a book, Mark, about Howlin Wolf, and I'm just wondering if you'd like to participate in this." And I said, "Of course, Jesse, I'd love to do that." And she said, "If you were going to get a couple of other people involved in this, a couple of other blues scholars, who would they be?" So I immediately thought of two of my friends whom I used to meet at the diner in Winslow. We used to meet up there every once in a while and talk about blues. And one of them is a guy by the name of Steve Franz, who wrote the only book about Elmore James. And Steve Franz is a fantastic blues scholar. He has a master's degree in ethnomusicology. He studied with Dr. David Evans, a real famous blues scholar. He got his master's in ethnomusicology down in Memphis, and he knows blues like you wouldn't believe. So I thought, Steve Franz, he's one of the guys who's got to be in this. And Steve's mother used to live on the island. She died a few years ago. So I thought Steve is perfect for this. He lives in Tucson, but he likes to come up here during the summer. And then I thought another friend of mine, Jim Bassnight, another guy that we used to meet at the diner, the Blues Diner in Winslow. Thought he's got to be part of this too. Jim is a well-known local musician. Started a famous band. It was famous in Seattle back in the 1980s, called the Moberleys, and he's been playing ever since then. He's had tons of bands. And more importantly, he's a blues scholar and a blues fanatic. And he's been working for probably about the last 10 years on a book about Sonny Boy Williamson number 2. Sonny Boy number 2. Sonny Boy number 2, his real name was Rice Miller, and he was more famous than Sonny Boy number 1. Sonny Boy number 2 was the guy that people used to listen to in the Delta. He had a radio show in Helena, Arkansas, starting in 1941. And it went until, 1951, somewhere around there. And he did the King Biscuit Blues Hour, King Biscuit show. Every day at noon, it would come on for 15 minutes. And he'd play with Robert Lockwood, another famous blues man. And they would announce where they were going to play. So that's Sonny Boy Williamson. He recorded tons of stuff. He was a great songwriter, an amazing guy. Jim Bassnight has been working on the only biography and the only documentary film about Sonny Boy number 2, and he's been working on it for 10 years. He was working on it with a guy from Seattle who just died a few years ago, so Jim has inherited all this great research, and he's going to put out the book sometime in the next year or two, and the movie. He's got some fantastic film clips. So Jesse said, those names, those sound great. I'd like to get these guys involved in this. And so we're all going to be doing kind of a blues panel, and we're going to be talking about our respective projects. I'm going to talk about the Howlin Wolf book that I wrote, and I'm going to be showing a film that I was involved in. I helped do a documentary film about Howlin Wolf that came out in 2004, and it was really popular for quite a while, and it's called The Howlin Wolf Story, and The Secret History of Rock and Roll. So I worked on that, and then Jim Bassnight is going to be showing clips from his film, and he's going to be talking about the book he's working on. Steve is going to talk about his book about Elmore James, and he's going to be showing a film about Maxwell Street in Chicago, a famous street where a lot of bluesmen used to play for free. A lot of famous blues guys played there. You could go down to Maxwell Street on any Saturday or Sunday and see like Little Walter there playing guitar, not harmonica, or St. Louis Jimmy Oden, or people like that, well-known bluesmen. So he's going to be talking about that and showing that film. And then we're going to do some blues listening parties. We're going to listen to some of our famous blues cuts and talk about why they're our favorites. And we're going to be, then I'm going to do a panel with both of those guys where we're going to talk about what it's like doing blues research in the Mississippi Delta and Chicago and St. Louis. And so that'll be interesting for anybody who wants to know what it's like doing blues research in the wilds of Mississippi, what it's like going into juke joints late at night in Mississippi, what it's like going out to Chicago's west side or south side on a Saturday night. And Elmore James, now this is the connection between, Steve Franz, his project, and Jim Basknight's project. Elmore James recorded with Sonny Boy Williamson. They both recorded for Trumpet Records back in the 1950s. In fact, Sonny Boy played on Elmore's records. Elmore played on Sonny Boy's records. So, and Jim Basknight and Steve Franz have got a lot in common there because they're working on projects about two guys who played together for Trumpet Records. And that's all I got to say. That's a lick that I think Wolf made up. I'm not sure. I've never heard anybody else play that before. I never heard anybody else play that before he did. So I think this whole thing, which is a pretty distinctive blues sound, was invented by Wolf.